Okay, let's talk about how temperament affects emotional and behavior disorders. So, first things first, what is temperament? From the psychological perspective, textbook definition, temperaments going to broadly refer to consistent individual differences in behavior and are biologically based and are relatively independent of learning, system of values, and attitudes. All right, so essentially, temperament is natural, it's genetic, right? It's relatively independent from what you're being taught, what you're learning. So let's go into some studies and figure out what the research says about temperament. So Dr. Martin he describes and he says temperament is one of the factors that functions both at school and at home. So it affects both settings. It affects learning, it affects school behavior, it's going to affect home behavior as well. So he suggests that a child's temperament it manifests itself in classroom behavior. It affects peer attitudes and behavior, and in turn have an additional impact on the child's educational outcome. So, yeah, one student's temperament in the classroom might affect another student. I'm sure we know students in our class or remember students growing up when we were kids, when we were students, or maybe you or I were that student that were disruptive in class that affected that learning environment negatively for other students in the class. So that is what Dr. Martin essentially said in that last sentence there. So the peer attitudes and behavior toward a learner that is identified that has emotionally behaviorally disorder that has an emotional or behavioral disorder may have an additional impact or increase for the risk of social rejection. So if somebody has a behavior or emotional disorder, they're going to be more likely to be rejected by their classmates. Students or children as a whole who are perceived to have a difficult temperament are going to be significantly at risk for social relationship problems. I know a couple of students in my fourth grade math class for students, and there's two students in there, they have behavioral disorders and they like to act out and they don't get along with other students in the class, and other students have a tough time getting along with them, and they are rejected by their other classmates. A lot of the other students don't want to be partnered up with them, and obviously that's discouraged at school, right? We want everybody to get along with everybody, build great social relationships, but the students with those behavioral disorders, it makes it tougher, and they're more likely to be rejected by their classmates. So we're seeing how their temperament, if they have that difficult temperament, they are going to be at risk for social relationships, which is going to affect their performance at school.